So how's it going? How's lockdown life?
It's good, actually. I thoroughly love working from home. It's the
Hmm.
greatest thing ever invented, and it's been okay. Been going through a lot, but I'm happy and healthy, and so is everybody else. So,
Yeah, I mean
and I'm
that's what's important.
thankfully employed. That's
Yeah.
the other. You learn about a lot about what you're grateful for right now versus the things you take for granted. Like just simply going to shop right is. I haven't been to a grocery store. I didn't go for about 2 months. I finally went to an Aldi on Saturday just because you know what I had to for just mental capacity.
So you've been avoiding going out.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yep.
I've been going out like every opportunity that I could get. So like going to the grocery store, um, which is pretty much it. I've been putzing around my development and stuff like that. Um, but like I've been slowly losing my sanity as time has gone on, and I haven't been able to like interact with people.
Yeah.
Also, going to the store is super weird right now.
It's very odd, especially with the masks. I think
That's what makes it weird for me, I think.
that's the scarier and definitely more traumatizing part of this all. Um, and I'm in a condo complex, so I see people wearing their masks as they're walking around with nobody else outside. Or earlier today, we were riding our bikes in, and there was a girl maybe 60 feet away from me who stopped, socially distanced, put her mask on, and like walked across the other way. Nobody else was around. So it's just been kind of questioned some of the actions. Um, and I'm confused as to what you believe and what you don't believe.
What do you how do you feel about everything? Like how do you feel about the masks and the uh
Well, sorry, to cut
no,
you
no,
off.
no. You're good to go.
Let's see. So the masks, you want me to wear a mask? Cool. You can't breathe in them. Quite honestly, there's a couple times I'm like, wow, this is claustrophobic, but I understand the purpose of it. I understand the washing the hands. I was wearing gloves originally, then I stopped wearing gloves because some people say wear them, some people say don't wear them. I've been through a lot medically recently that I've just gotten to the point in my head that it's like, hey, if I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. And if I don't get it, I didn't get it. It's just kind of what was supposed to happen at this point. So I believe that there's some merit to what they're saying. But I also think that there's, I hate to use the term fake news, so I'm going to use it, fake news out there. So,
No, no, you
you know where
are
I'm coming from.
totally entitled to use that phrase, and I don't think that at least I'm not going to disagree with. I mean, perfect example. About a week ago, I was reading. I try to read a lot of like if I'm reading an article, let's say the first article I read is from Fox News, I will seek out a similar type of article like, or an article that covers the same topic from CNN or some other left wing media to
Mm-hmm.
see, you know, I really don't believe that Fox News gives you accurate information the
Right.
same way that I don't believe CNN is giving accurate information. I really believe that it's somewhere in the middle. So I'll try and look at I'll try and look at both. And in my Google feed, I just see an article come up from Fox News that says that in Georgia, and
Mm-hmm.
this was like a couple weeks after they started opening back up, that their numbers are still declining and this and that, and they're seeing their lowest numbers yet. And then an article from CNN written the same day
Mm-hmm.
said that they are seeing an unprecedented spike in COVID cases,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I mean, how do you, I granted, I do tend to be right leaning. So I am biased towards believing Fox a little bit more, but what I thought lent more credibility to them that I wish CNN had was that Fox had numbers. Like they were able to say, okay, a month ago there were X amount of cases, it's decreased to this. Whereas CNN was just like, they're seeing a spike. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. it was just not arbitrary. What's the word for like abstract? It was
Oh,
an
okay.
abstract, like, oh, there's a spike. What was a spike going up by 100, by two, by a couple thousand? You don't
Right.
really know. There's no way to quantify what they're saying. But like, I think just that alone is evidence enough that we're not really getting accurate information from anybody.
Yeah, and that's the scary part too, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not just with what's going on now. And uh, I mean, all of my friends know that I am on the right of almost everything.
You on the right?
Do you want to go get my campaign posters? I mean, there are definitely things that I am not completely on the right. Um, so most of our social, I guess, pieces within legislation or social, whatever you want to call it. Hey, I don't care what you do. I'm more of the fiscal side, the fiscal conservative. Um, that's all I really care about, quite honestly. I don't, whatever else you want to do socially, I don't have time. I can barely get my own life together. So long as I'm not paying more taxes, that's where I'm totally concerned. And I definitely, I mean, we went to the same school for a couple of years. They kind of
Mm-hmm.
fed you one way, and I always thought the opposite of that way. So that's one thing that I think people misinterpret me about, because I've always been, God, probably since the sixth grade, listening to a guy named Mark Levin on the radio just because I happen to find him, go to my dad and say, hey, I like this guy, Mark Levin. I think I'm a Republican. And I always have been. And people just always have misinterpreted that. But kind of that's more about me. Coming back to what we're talking about with COVID and just the news and stuff, to be honest with you, I've not watched Fox News since March 10th. So usually it's like Saturday morning, we wake up, we watch Fox News for a couple hours, and off we go. I won't watch it. A couple of reasons. One, I just didn't want to sit there and listen to what was going on with COVID. It's kind of like I wanted to do out of sight, out of mind. Like I knew wash your hands, stay at home, all that stuff. But like you got to kind of keep looking forward. But I still, I'll get bits and drabs of what I need, but I just don't need those things like you're saying. Like I, I think they inflate. I think CNN inflates. But I will tell you, since working from home, we've started watching. Oh my God, it's on. I know it's Channel 24. It's whatever financial news that there is. I don't know if it's CNBC.
I mean,
Whatever I
I tend to avoid news stations altogether. So
well,
you're
this one
talking to the wrong person about that.
this one's actually, I will say, probably the made me more interested in companies and businesses, corporate world, where the market's going, because we'll listen to it every day for my wonderful roommate. But I've learned a lot from that, and that's the kind of news that I'm cool with now, because it's straight to the fact: how are companies doing? How's the market doing? And you're
There's no
not
faking
getting
it.
that extra spin, that extra bias, because either way, on either side, it's getting repulsive, quite honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Um, how do you spent a lot of time in politics actually, professionally, right?
Yes, I did.
Now,
For
sorry,
no, go ahead. For a couple, I was just gonna say for a couple of years.
how do you feel about the way that they're handling like things in New Jersey and the other states, like from a political, looking at this from a political standpoint, how do you interpret what's going on?
Well, let me put the disclaimer out there first. I am not a medical professional, nor do I claim to know anything about their jobs and and whatever. So,
And on
um,
top of that, they don't really know much about this either.
yeah.
In
So,
fairness,
right. It's a completely new world. Do I think initially it was handled well? Yes. I mean, I wanted to stay home. I didn't want to go to work. My company was one of the first ones to shut down, which I'm extraordinarily grateful for. Um,
when did they shut down?
March 10th. I was
Oh,
actually still in Texas when we were told to now work from home. So I've been home since actually March 4th, with my
okay.
vacation in between that. But I think initially it was held really well. I mean, for what I guess for what Governor Murphy knows, and what is fed to him for talking points, yeah. I think right now you're kind of at a crossroads here because, again, not a medical professional, but businesses. What are we going to do to support the economy in New Jersey, let alone the federal government? But businesses are closing. I mean, people are getting laid off left and right. And what's the plan there? Like, you can't just open it up slowly. You have to get something in place, one, to give people hope or something to look forward to, because it's been a dismal 2 months. But if this continues,
I think it's
how?
been a little bit longer than 2 months. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's,
when you figure March 10th, you're knocking on
let's
the door. I mean, you're 2.5 months in, knocking on the door of like 3 months at this point.
yeah, with no plan in sight for opening. And I think there are businesses out there that can certainly open. If you are telling me that I can go stand in line at a ShopRite, why can't I go get my hair cut?
Agreed. I was having a conversation today with someone about how um, it's absolutely terrible how like a Walmart can open, but you can't tell. But then they're turning around and telling you that you can't go to like the corner bike store. Like, for example, one of my neighbors wanted to buy a new mountain bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had to like wait for them to be able to open back up. But like if he went into Walmart, it's like a no holds barred, do whatever you want as long as you're wearing a mask kind of situation. Um, and I think you're right. The frustrating thing for me has always been the lack of any publicized plan. Like it's just like, oh, we're gonna do this slowly. Great, okay, fine. I'm cool with social distancing. You want to wear masks, you want to stay home, whatever. But when you're not giving any information as to an idea of, okay, you're appointing a committee and then a committee to oversee the committee. And
Welcome to politics, Frank.
yeah, I know. But like, okay, for example, my friend Saf,
Mm-hmm.
I was actually talking to him about this on the podcast, just specifically about the committee. And when you think about the fact that, um, how hard is it for you to decide where you want to go to dinner with a couple people? And there might be four of you or five of you. And there's multiple committees of more than almost 24 people in each committee.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to get a consensus among one committee and then get both committees to agree with each other to make a plan?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what I
I
struggle with.
Well, that goes back to one of my favorite cliche sayings: "Is too many cooks in the kitchen."
Yeah.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and I agree. You need a task force to oversee the other committee members, to oversee this. There's checks and balances, but then there's just a whole bunch of red tape. And I I think steps could be taken to open these businesses that really need to be open right now. Like, we can now do curbside pickup from different small businesses. Like, why weren't we doing that before?
Right.
Or it's such a hard judgment call to say these things, or just kind of a hard opinion to have, because, again, not being a medical professional, I don't think I would ever be able to physically and emotionally handle what they've just gone through. I'm talking nurses, doctors, anybody within a medical sphere, people in
Mhm.
nursing homes, whatever. I do not have the mental capacity to do that. So you people are all heroes to me. I can't even put a band-aid on. But
And rightfully so. I mean, they're legitimately going out and they're putting their lives on the line every day because,
yeah,
even though theoretically people our age are mildly affected by this, you never know. Every now and then you hear a story about somebody that was
yeah,
35 years old, otherwise perfectly healthy, and they get it and they die. So you don't know.
you
I think
don't.
that's the scary part.
And I think the point I was trying to make there is, you had asked me how do I think the government had handled this in the beginning, and I think they did what they needed to do. And I think we, as New Jerseyans or as Americans where this was hit, did what we needed to do. We needed to socially distance. We needed to order our groceries online. We needed to kind of MacGyver how we were doing things. But now it's been 2.5 months. Now we're seeing people lose jobs. Now we're seeing people not have enough food. Now we're seeing people who are mentally now affected who naturally wouldn't be. So it's now time to say we've done all that we could. We'll continue to social distance. We'll wear the mask. You want us to wear gloves. You want to supply Lysol wipes when I walk in the store. But we have to get back out there. And I think, isn't that part of our maybe Bill of Rights? And I shouldn't be quoting these things, but don't I have the
You
capacity?
are right.
Don't I have the capacity now to say I will take matters into my own hands? And should I get it, I get it. And if I don't, I don't. But the other argument is too, am I doing more harm sitting inside my house in isolation, mentally, one, and then two, physically, because I'm now not exposed to half the germs that I used to be exposed to. So, excuse me, what does that look like now if I have to go back out to the office? Do I get sick and all of a sudden, the first thing I think of is, oh my God, I got COVID. But in fact,
Got the Rona.
I got the Rona.
You got the
But
Rona.
when in fact, it's just because I am now just more likely to get sick. So I think it really just sucks because nobody knows enough, right? Like nobody knows enough to say, here's the playbook on the Rona, and
Right.
then we're now on chapter 5. So now we can let the people back out. So I'm hoping that with the weather change here, people realizing it is serious. But I think the last thing I would say on it is it's serious, but when you hold people up in captivity, kind of like we were, you reach that peak of, okay,
We still are.
I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. So that's when you start to get those who go rogue. Now we have a different problem. So it's a tough call to make. Let me say, I'm not glad that I mean, I am glad that I'm not one of them who had to make the call. But as a golfer, I've got some issues with what's going
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that
with
part.
what's going on. I'll get read about that. But I think some things were taken to the extreme. But then again, like I said, I'm not the governor making these calls. I don't want these issues on my hands years to come. But I guess I would leave with I hope everybody continues to socially distance, but it's time to kind of get back out there and get our people back to work. In
Yeah.
whatever way we can with whatever we have to do, 25%, 50%, increase takeout, open up barbershops with four people in there total. Whatever you got to do, just start generating some money in the economy.
Well, there's some interesting things in there too that I want to touch on before we leave this topic.
Yeah, sure.
Number one, there was a study, I think it was in New York. 90% of the people that had tested positive and were hospitalized had been self-quarantining
Yeah.
for over 2 weeks, which is an interesting thing to think about because theoretically this is supposed to be helping us, right? And all these people, and 90% of the people in the hospital that are testing positive for it were socially distancing, they weren't leaving their house and things like that because they're not supposed to be out in public. And then it makes you think about the reason that germs spread more readily in the winter, which is because you're trapped inside, the windows are closed, you're not interacting with fresh air, you're just kind of recirculating
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. And then also I don't know if you saw the article, I think it was one of the local news outlets that published the article. They interviewed Tim McClune that owns
I did.
okay, how he says that even if they get to 50%, they won't make it to January.
I have goosebumps.
Um yeah, it sucks because like I don't have the answer to that, but like the idea that like okay, on the surface it sounds great that we're going to be able to start opening restaurants for 25% capacity or whatever percent capacity. But then you think about these businesses that are down near the beach that get 4 months out of the year, they've got to hit their number, otherwise they go under.
Yeah.
No pun intended that they're by the ocean.
Yeah.
That came out and I was like, oh God, did I just really say that? But the reality is that a place like McLuhan's Pier House in Pier Village or
Staple.
what's that?
It's a staple in that community.
Well, it's a staple of the community. There's another one in Asbury that took over. They
Robinson
rebranded.
Nail House, I think,
Yeah,
and he owns the Iron Whale, I believe, too.
yeah. And if they don't hit their number by the end of the summer, like that's a big thing for them. Let alone all these shops that are literally only open. Like I think about the crepe shop. on Asbury Boardwalk. They're literally only open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. They've got roughly a 4-month window to make what they're going to make for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there's more part-time work there and things like that, but I'd be afraid to see a lot of these places. It's going to be sad, I think, next summer to see how many places don't come back. Because I think that this summer we're going to see everybody open up and really make a push to hit a point that they can survive. But I don't think that we're going to really see the effects of the economy, at least on like the Jersey Shore, until like next summer when stuff doesn't open back up because they couldn't, which
Yeah.
is, it sucks.
I've been seeing it. Like I follow a lot of these places on social media, and it's like they're begging for it. Like they
Mm-hmm.
need something, and I think you're right. I think it's going to these few months will damage their livelihoods and our economy for many years to come. And it's not going to be a okay, we're back on. So it's going to be a rough couple years. And we were even talking about, how does this compare to what happened in 2008, right? Like when people were losing jobs. And I know it's a completely different, maybe even apples to oranges argument, but people are still losing jobs. But now you're hitting people who are, they're surviving on an hourly wage, right? Like I'm thinking waiters, servers, anybody in the hospitality worlds. Like this is hitting them so hard.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do? Like what's the state prepared to do?
Well, the other thing too is where are they going to get the money? Even when you think about the federal government, all right, they issue another round of $1,200 stimulus checks, the $600 a week for unemployment. Money's got to come from somewhere. Like
Yep.
that's the part that like
All of us.
I'm so conflicted on how to deal with something like that, because on one hand I'm like, no, you need to, like, there needs to be something done to help people. Like if you're going to sit there and say, okay, you can't go to work but you still have to pay your bills, well then the people that tell you can't go to work, being the government in this situation, have to do something to make it so that you can still pay your bills. But at the same time, where do they get the money from to allow you to pay your bills and to do all those things? And it becomes like this slippery slope of you just print more money and eventually it's not worth anything.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing because we also were talking about that as well. It's just like, what are you just going to do? Just print it out, and what's the value there? And we're all going to be hit by this financially, I think, long term. And then the other half of that is how do you repair people emotionally too? Because it is twofold in that sense. So there has to be something done as well to give people some kind of silver lining along the way. I'm thinking about it a lot more from that perspective right now because selfishly, that's kind of where I fit into all this is like the emotional side is can't hug my mom and dad when you need a hug and you can't go see your friends and all of that.
So what's interesting about that, I fall more onto that spectrum as well. And I was for Mother's on Tuesday, so we staggered where we went for Mother's Day, and we went to visit my parents' house on Tuesday of last week, and we all sat outside. Everybody was wearing. My mom wanted us to wear masks because she's taking care of not taking care of, but my grandfather moved from Clark to an apartment in Sayreville,
mm-hmm.
and my mom's being super careful because my grandfather's 94 years old and she wants to make sure that, because if he gets it, there's a high probability he's going down.
Yeah,
It's just,
leave it
it's
alone.
the, right. It's just the unfortunate reality of it. And she's like, on one hand, she wants to do everything that she can to prevent him from getting it, like not hugging him, not, but at the same time, she's like, he's 94 years old. What happens if he passes away of natural causes in his sleep and I haven't hugged him in 4 months?
Oof. Yeah.
Like that's the reality that people are living in right now. Um, and it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, and I hate to be cliche again, but I'm not one of those like we're all in this together, but like literally we are all in this together. We're all in the suck right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So that is the
Sucks for
one.
that's the one way that we're all in this together is that it sucks for everybody.
We're all in a just a crap situation. So I don't know. I it's hard to kind of just package up all your thoughts and be like, here you go. Because every day it just changes. It's just like, oh, more cases are going up. Okay, like time to be a little bit more cautious. But I'm always gonna. It's I'm always going to be cautious now going forward. Like how are we not ever going to be unless there's a vaccine, right? Like
That changes everything. The
that
vaccine
changes
changes
everything.
the whole
But
perspective on everything.
yeah, that then it's just like give it to me and then you're good to go. But it's kind of like I was thinking back. I forget who I was having this discussion with. I think it was my dad or my parents. But in eighth grade, we were probably just at our really strong formative years, starting to remember things and true emotions and feelings and what's going on. And 9/11 happened.
Hmm.
So like we were in that generation that kind of that younger generation that's going to stick with because that's kind of a molding period, right? So I'm thinking about kids now, like not going to school, not seeing their friends, having to wear masks, having to wear gloves, sitting home. Like what's that going to be long term effect too? Like that's the other piece that I don't think everyone's thinking of yet. Or maybe
No, definitely not. Um, I am curious because I haven't gotten out this year, but what is golfing like now?
the world's weirdest thing. um, let's just say I'm very grateful that the golf courses are now open. Um, I guess it's the same as always in a way, depending on who you're playing with, but it is odd. It's frustrating, quite honestly. I think the rules within the state of New Jersey are, let me remember this, 60 minutes apart for tee times. Twosomes are,
60, like an hour?
I'm sorry, 16,
Oh,
1 6.
16, 16. Okay.
Hours, 16 minutes apart for groups. It was twosomes up until today. I did hear that foursomes will now be allowed. Um, no driving ranges up until today. That those reopened, and one person riding in a cart, unless you're family or you live together or there's some kind of thing there. So
Do you have to wear a mask?
they are recommending that you wear a mask as you are up at the tee box or as you are up, kind of waiting for
Close to people?
time. Yeah, like as the congregation is there, but they're saying 15 minutes before your tee time to show up. There's no warming up. You just kind of go up to the tee, and that's that. But it's frustrating because I wonder who the person was and what the thought behind this task force was when they were coming up with the rules. Because 16 minutes apart is just ridiculous. I mean, I'm in the great outdoors, but I can go to a park and have 2,500 people around me. Well, that's aggressive right now. So 25 people around me, and there's nobody's watching that. Like we can socially distance
Nobody's
apart.
watching the supermarkets either.
That's
Have you been like physically been in a ShopRite or a Wegmans or an Ac like I go to Acme once a week now.
I haven't been there. The only place I've been to, like I said, was Aldi on Saturday, and that was just honestly the same as always. Sans the masks.
Yeah.
And the waiting in the line where you really weren't 6 feet apart, you were a cart apart. Um, but yeah, like what was the point of keeping us so far apart and keeping us in twosomes? But I see, a family member all the time, and I live with my boyfriend that plays golf. So why can't the three of us play? We all see each other.
So you're not even allowed to be in the same cart as your boyfriend.
I would be because we do live together,
Okay.
but I wouldn't be able to be in the same cart as my friend.
Right. And also, how are they determining, how are they checking rather,
I guess
who you live with?
I
Are
guess
they
it's
actually checking your driver's license?
no. I mean not our club, but I don't know, maybe some clubs are. I did hear that a couple of clubs in South Jersey did get shut down for not following the guidelines, but
Oh,
yeah, I don't know what clubs, and that was just hearsay, so I can't put any true fact behind it. I didn't even look it up, but I don't know, and I think it's just on your honor. and you could say that you live with somebody and you do not, and they have to take your word. So it's just kind of ridiculous. Why in this great open space that I can't play in a foursome when we're on completely opposite sides of the golf course. So meanwhile, all that to say that I played in a walking twosome on Thursday with a friend of mine and socially distanced and whatever. But the whole time we've got guys on carts behind us who are riding singular, who are up our butts because you can't outwalk a golf cart. So now you've got the problem of people needing to play through, which is part
Yeah.
of the guide you shouldn't be playing through. So you should have
You're
just
not
let.
allowed to allow someone to play through anymore?
I don't think you were allowed to let somebody play through. I also read the guidelines in Europe, so I might be getting confused between the two. But I mean, we did really come on through. Never saw them, never came within 50 feet of them. But it's just kind of ridiculous. But I will say, I wrote an article probably mid-March when this was all happening that was like, please don't take golf away. Like, whatever you do, do not take this away. It's a great outdoor sport. Here's my top 10 things of what you can do to not touch anybody or touch anything in the golf course.
Where is that
So
published?
I had like a small is it Wix page that I put together, like a blog page. So I wrote
Yeah.
like two things about COVID-19 and playing golf, and just like my other thoughts on and golf and what you can do during not having golf. I think it's called Green to Grain
Okay.
on Wix, but got some
I need you to
traction.
send me the link to that. I'll link it in the
That's fine.
description of the
Yeah, that's.
video.
I mean, this is pre everything that happened, but everything I kind of thought it was what they eventually did. It was remove the water, remove the ball washer, just remove breaks in the sand. Don't touch the flag stick. So take two putts and get close to it. Or, there's something that they can do that you can still play and not put yourself in danger. And then they
Right.
shut it down. It's like, but why? Why
Yeah, I always felt like shutting down golf courses was like a weird. I knew that they were going to do it, especially in New Jersey. I knew that they were going to do it just because you can't make that sweeping of a declaration that everything's got to shut down and exclude golf courses, because then there'd be huge uproars about it.
Mhm.
But it just seemed like even closing parks. Like I was thinking about it, and I mentioned it to a few people that I felt that closing parks and closing all these businesses might, and I don't know if there ends up being any validity to it. I'm sure if there's, anybody. My cats are walking around. I heard somebody batter glass around. I was like, oh God. I don't know if there's any validity to it, but I kind of felt like a logical thing that would happen is, okay, you've taken away all the places people can go. Only place people can go are Home Depot, the supermarket, and the hospital, basically, right?
Yeah.
So now you're funnel, and you've limited the hours that these people can go there. So you're basically funneling everybody to the places that everybody has to go to out of necessity. It's not even a matter of like you go to the park and you're not social distancing because there's so many people there. It's like now you're really making it so that everybody can only go to a few places, and so that's where everybody is going to be. Not that I think people are going to the supermarket for recreation, but um, it made me feel like that could potentially cause it to spread even more rapidly, if it's going to spread rapidly at all, um, because of the fact that that's the only place that you can go. You have to be there. You can't go without food for indefinite periods of time.
Mhm. Yeah, and honestly, I don't think that the coronavirus knows about limited hours at ShopRite, so it can only
Well,
attack
that's
7
yeah.
7 a.m. and 8 p.m. I mean, I didn't go into a grocery store because I felt like I was going to do my part and keep myself as far away as possible. And not for nothing, somebody in my house had the flu right as this was starting, so it was a little eerie. When it was first happening. It's like, what do you mean you've had a fever for a couple of days? What do you mean you're sweating? What do you mean you can't?
Funny you should mention that. Right before all this happened, so back in February,
Mhm.
early February, my brother got the flu. My brother and his fiance got the flu, and we know it was the flu. They tested positive for the flu, and
Same.
all that. Um, 2 weeks later, I was supposed to go up to Vermont. I was supposed to go up to Killington, and like the day before, the Thursday before, I started feeling a little bit off, and I'm like, ah, shit. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. I'm like hoping that I'm gonna make it up to Vermont. And Friday rolls around, the day that I'm supposed to drive up, and I just felt like total dog shit. Like runny nose, dry cough. I actually got sent home. First time I've ever had this happen to me. I got sent home from work because I looked that sick. Um, and I didn't really think anything of it because like I kind of, you've known that I just kind of brush colds off, and I, just
Mhm.
hop myself up on medicine, and you take it on the chin, you keep going. Um, but the one thing that was odd that I didn't typically ever experience, I can't remember the last time I've experienced it, was at night. Um, I would wake up like shivering because I had sweat through, like I was wearing, uh, some nights I'd wear a hoodie, some nights I'd just kind of, a t-shirt and whatever. No matter what I was wearing, I would always sweat through it. I don't know for a fact that I had a fever because I never took my temperature,
Mhm.
but I read an article about the first guy that uh, beat coronavirus in New Jersey, and one of the things that stood out was he mentioned that every night he would wake up shivering with the chills and all this, and I was like, oh shit, I may have actually had it. I mean, there's no way to really know at this point. Um, but like usually too, Paige doesn't typically get sick right away
Mhm.
after I get sick. She was sick like that. Like
Oh
three,
wow.
4 days later, she was sick, same thing, dry cough, shivers, and it was gone within 72 hours.
Interesting.
Um,
Did you guys get tested?
no, we didn't get
Not
so that was,
the antibodies. I mean, not the other
I
testing.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I know
I
Jeff did. Just
Where
for
did he go to get
just
tested?
for the doctor's office. It's just a simple blood test, from what I understand.
Yeah, I would totally do that because then it would, I mean, from a few different perspectives. Number one, I'd like to know if that's what I actually had.
Hmm.
Number two, then it's like, okay, well, I had it, beat it, and I'm not going to get it again theoretically.
Hopefully,
And I don't
yeah,
have, and theoretically, I don't have to worry about spreading it either. So that,
yeah,
I mean, I would definitely be up for getting tested. And if I test positive for antibodies, that's almost like I would bet my house that Paige would test positive for it too.
yeah. If you guys had the same exact thing, I mean, I've been fortunate enough, knock on wood, or I was fortunate enough when Jeff had the flu, I did not get anything from that, any residual.
Would you
That
do? Sleep in another room?
we did, yeah,
Oh, did you really?
yeah, for almost 2 weeks.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
Jeff stayed on the couch because we knew it was the flu, but it's also in the back of your mind when this is all new. It's like, but what if it's the flu end, or what if it's not? What if it's something more, false negative? So we did, and it was like, you sit there, and everything you need, I will touch. You don't touch anything. But it wasn't like I forced that upon him. He's like, I don't want to get you sick because I was diagnosed with celiac disease maybe 3 months prior, and I just had been through enough. It's like, please don't give me
What
anything
is
else right
refresh my memory on what celiac is? What it
now.
affects,
So
does to you?
celiac disease is basically my body does not break down the protein found in wheat, barley, or rye.
Oh, is this you're one of the people that like legitimately can say like I can't eat gluten,
Correct.
and
I am.
it's not bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit. Not bullshit at all. I cannot eat it. I cannot digest it, and
What happens if you do?
well, So here's the interesting thing. I thought I've had it for about 5 years now, but up until this year, it really actually just took me out. It basically took my ability to walk away for a couple days, shaking, couldn't really get my legs underneath me, anxiety, and I don't have anxiety. I don't really have anything to worry about. It just kind of like takes over your body, and you're like, what is this about? Trying to think what else was kind of happening to me. Just almost on the verge of collapsing too. You get like this, and I would kind of fall over or whatever. Scary, probably the most scared
Yeah.
I've ever been. But 5 years ago, I started coming down with like a rash that would come on my face, and it would be gone in 48 to 72 hours. And every time I would get to a doctor, a dermatologist, or a regular doctor, they would tell me, "Oh, you just have," tell me I had herpes on my face. Okay, here's a
Which
$900.
which by the way, I think it's something like 98% of the population do have. So it's a realistic, like, stress brings it out, different things bring it out. Like 98% of the population has some version of herpes in their system.
Right.
So I can
Like I
understand that. But at the same time, when you're like, yeah, this isn't what that is.
It was reoccurring, so I guess maybe that's what they thought. And then I did start to feel wonky around that time too. Like the tops of my feet would go numb, or I'd have a couple of different issues. But I don't know if I put mind over matter at one point and just said, and whatever happens. And I truly felt better for 4.5 years. And then all of a sudden, it just came back with a vengeance. And I did continue to get the rash, and I did continue to get told it was stress up until this December, when I went to the doctor and said, I haven't seen it in a while. Here's a picture. This is what I keep getting, and I don't feel good. I don't know if it's related to what's going on right now, but can you please check?
Mhm.
Now, I don't know, maybe this podcast will help raise awareness for it for other people who suffered like I did. The problem is that this condition is in your stomach. It breaks down these little guys called villi, and mine were completely flat. So I had nothing that was processing anything in my body. What doctors I think miss and people miss when they come in and say these things is that the tip of the iceberg, I've been told there's a celiac iceberg. The top of the iceberg is the person that comes in with gastro issues. My stomach hurts. I'm in the bathroom all the time. I've got acid reflux. I've got all these GERD issues. They'll say it's IBS
Wait, what
GERD.
is GERD?
Something to do with your digestive tract,
Okay.
stomach aches and stuff. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure other people can tell us what GERD is. I don't have it. So all that to say is, like, I go to the doctor and they're like, you don't have celiac disease if you've never had a stomach ache. And I can tell you, I've never gotten sick from food. I've never gotten sick from beer. I ate a cheese pizza literally the night before all this was happening. Again, did not feel sick. So that's like, if you have those problems, that's the other thing they'll immediately test you for, is they'll be like, oh, you might have celiac disease. Let's go check it out. Lo
Right.
and behold, they'll find that people do. Then there's like silent celiacs who have celiac disease, who just show zero symptoms of that. And then there's my group who actually get the neurological side. There was a famous actress out there, I forgot what's her name, Jennifer Esposito. She was on Blue Bloods for a while, and I found her videos on YouTube, literally explaining the same exact thing. She'd had trouble for over 30 years. Like, she'd had anxiety disorder, and she was losing her hair, I think, or like her teeth were falling out, and
Oh
nobody
my
could tell
God.
her why. She always felt terrible, and then finally they finally tested her for celiac. And that's what it was. And she's completely healthy now. So that's why I think mine went undetected for so long. But it's in my family, unfortunately. But as soon as I did tell my gastro that it's in my family, he said, well, it's heavily hereditary.
Mhm.
So that's when he knew. He saw my blood test results and he said, "You're normal." I forget TTG. I'm not a medical professional, again, disclaimer. Whatever that number is, you should be a 19. I was 134. So
Oh,
he said I was
that's
off.
wildly out of range.
Yeah. So it kind of, I should have been less shocked than I was, because I had gone to a doctor 5 years ago with the picture of my face and with the issues I was having. And I said, I'm going to throw this out there and say I have celiac disease. And they said, no, you have some other neurological disorder, which I will keep nameless. So that clearly set me off a cliff going, what do you mean I have this other issue? Then that's when I think about mind over matter. And then lo and behold, it was
It was
something
what you
else.
thought it was in the beginning.
It was, I, not to keep talking about this, but I went to this doctor recently and they told me, no, you just have stress. And they said, give me the panel. I want it. I'll pay for it. Called me the next day and said, you have it. I was like, can I have my MD now?
There you go. Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be the person that tells you how to do your job, but I just kind of saved my own ass.
Yeah. So what kind of adjustments do you have to make to make sure that you're not so well, actually, let's back up. What, if you're comfortable sharing it, what kind of symptoms are you experiencing? And then
Mhm.
what steps do you have to take to mitigate, what lifestyle changes do you have to make to make sure that you don't get those symptoms?
So, gluten-free lifestyle. I mean, I already eat healthy to begin with, as best as I can, even though, disclaimer, I just had 2 hot dogs and fries for dinner. Um, but
So hot dog, well, the fries don't have gluten in them?
mm, no, a lot of products out there that I'm finding are gluten-free. Like, we can cook gluten-free and I can feed everybody and nobody would be able to be like, it's gluten-free. Sauce, like, just look at the label or know how to read your labels. I've been working with a phenomenal dietitian. If anybody ever watches this and has celiac disease and needs her name, I will give it to you. But she's fantastic. Taught me how to read labels, taught me what to look for. Also, big win is, this is a, I guess, controversial topic in the celiac world, but some people say certain whiskeys and certain alcohol is not gluten free. So for a while, it's like, oh God, I can never have Jameson again. Like, this is the worst day ever. Distilled alcohol, all good.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say, like, it's distilled. Like, it's just
there's like,
pure alcohol when it's distilled, right?
yeah. So the grain is completely, the protein of that grain is pulled out of there, even though it's made from that. So this dietitian I've been working with is, I would say, well versed in the subject, to where she goes to conferences and stuff. So that really helped me mentally get over the next level of, this is okay. Like, this isn't the worst thing. Um, so I've had to go gluten free. It's kind of about it. I have to be careful with restaurants
Mhm.
now. There's something called cross contamination that I wasn't aware of initially. So it's like, if you cut a piece of bread with a knife and then you wipe it off and then go cut my roll, I could get cross contamination.
Right. I was listening to another podcast. I wish I could remember which one it was, but they had somebody who's like in charge of restaurants, and one of the things that he made a point of saying is that if they tell you they can go gluten free, or if they're not like a vegan restaurant and they say that they've got vegan options, and you consider vegan having never touched like a knife or this or that, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's next to impossible unless the entire restaurant adheres to that
Mm-hmm.
to eliminate total cross contamination.
Yeah, and I know that, and I didn't initially realize that. So when I first got told about this, um, I was like, all right, well, whatever. I'll just eat gluten free. So I go to a restaurant. I'm like, oh, what are gluten free? Um, then I went to a, what was supposed to be, support group, which actually made me the most miserable human I've ever met. It was just not a place for me, and it was like, we don't go out to eat anymore. We don't do all these things, and um, you can. And I'm
So it's a support group, but like, what was so miserable about it? Like, what made it
well,
so?
part of it was my attitude walking into it. Let's start with that. I'll take no
Okay.
part of that. But it was learning about cross contamination, and hearing some people say, like, we don't go out to eat anymore because we don't trust anything. Now, that's on that person to make that decision for themselves. I mean, you could have a peanut allergy and be just as worried to go out to a restaurant. So a lot of what I did with friends and what I do with my boyfriend is go out to eat and go out to try different places and drink. So that was like, oh my God, this is the worst news
Like, it's like
ever. Like,
ripping your life away from you.
yeah, and it's first world problems, right? But it was, being 31 and still kind of having fun and going out places and living that free life. Yeah, it was taken away. And it's like, then not only that, it's like, how will I ever travel again? And how do I explain this to friends? I'll be honest, Frank, you're probably one of the few people that I've told about this. So this will go viral. So whatever. It's fine. Not a
I
lot of
can
people.
edit this part out if you want. Like, if you want to keep it secret, I have no problem doing that.
No, I think, hey, so this is a podcast, so we can talk about all this stuff. I have been battling with, do I tell people or do I not? And part of it is, it's like, it's my problem and it's for me to know about, and I don't need to share it with everybody. But then there's the flip side of it that I recently learned about, that it's very uncommon in the US. Well, I think it's 1 or 2% of the population have it. So it's a small percentage, but it's rapidly growing. And the reason is that we now know to look for it. We now know to test for it. And we now know that it's very, very prevalent hereditarily. There are medications, I believe, in the pipeline that may help those who suffer with this condition down the line, but without having shared the cause. And there is technically a cure, which is going gluten-free, but if it allows me to eat a pizza again, I'd like to see it come to the forefront.
Sure.
There's no awareness, or there's little to no awareness, therefore there's no funding, therefore a pharmaceutical company sees no profit, then we'll never get anything. So I flipped to that side of thinking, like, if I can share this with people, to like, there's a whole, it's not just because we have stomach aches, like there's more to it than that.
Also, I think that, you mentioned that you're having like it causes neurological problems. I think that there's a kind of a, whether it's right or wrong, a stigma against people that will arbitrarily be like, oh, is this gluten free? Is this no cruelty, organic bullshit?
Yeah.
I think that hearing about when it actually really legitimately affects someone and affects the way they live their life, in a, especially you said that you were, weak and struggling to like just get through a normal day. Hearing that kind of, I feel like, changes people's perspective, where it's like, okay, this was a legitimate thing that happened. And, it's not a matter of like, sure, you don't want to eat necessarily gluten free. You want to house the pizza.
Like, goddamn pizza.
Right. I actually, there are a few other people that I know of that have it as well, that it's the same thing. I don't know what effects it has on them, but they make sure that they are as gluten-free as possible. Now, for you, is there like a level of, if you go out and there's like a cross-contamination of like, oh, it's cooked on the same grill, or something like that, like, is there a level that for yourself personally that will trigger it, or is it anything, any level of, consumption?
So that's the interesting point, or the interesting question is, I don't know, because I've lived a couple weeks in complete fear after going to a support group and then hearing all these stories, is that, oh my God, if I ever ingest it again, I'm going to be violently ill, like hugging the porcelain pony until the cows come home.
Right.
But in working with this dietitian, this professional, she said, no, there's some people who just never feel anything. And because I've never been sick before, there's a likeliness that I won't get sick. I might feel some things, like my stomach may hurt a little bit, but I won't.
You're not going to be bedridden for days or something like
that. Yeah. And I don't know, because like I was saying, like, that's probably why nobody really looked for it, is because I didn't come in going, oh my God, or like everything I eat comes up. Like, everything I ate went down, and then it was washed down with some more. So that's
I
why
ate the gluten and then I washed the gluten down with some gluten.
exactly like I was number one gluten queen. But I, and I don't know, and this it's a whole new world. I did have Chinese food over the weekend from a place that said it was gluten free, and I did buy this little gadget that tests for it.
How do you
Um,
test for it? Now that piques my interest. I'm curious.
so we might want to edit this part out because I flipped my mind on this gadget, but I will tell you about it. It's called a Nima, and this is nothing against Nima. So maybe we'll edit this little part out. But it's just like this little triangular thing, and you put a little piece of the food in the capsule, and then it runs in and like kind of breaks it down with these enzymes, and it'll give you a smiley face if it's good to go, or it'll give you a wheat sign if gluten was found, so you don't eat it. So I spent a good chunk of change on it, like $200 or $300, I don't remember, and like 6 capsules were like $36. But it was like, oh my god, this is what's gonna let me eat out again. Like this is gonna let me live my normal life, and it didn't. It gave me handcuffs again.
So wait a minute, because now I don't know that I want to edit that part out because I'm curious about this gadget. You take a piece of the food and you put it in this machine.
It's no bigger than a pea. Yeah.
Okay, well, you put a piece of the food no bigger than a pea in. How big is the whole apparatus?
Maybe, I don't know, what is
Okay,
it?
so it fits in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you think it actually worked, or do you think it was just like a another way of just bullshitting a way into you not eating something?
No, I think there's definitely some science behind it for sure. A friend made me a cake, my favorite red velvet cake. We took a pea size and it came back gluten free. I ate the whole freaking cake. The whole bag, I'm like, don't care. You took my pizza, let me have my cake. But I was taking it to restaurants that we were going to that, they said we have a big celiac group that comes here. We take the utmost care. And here I am testing every little thing that I have. And it's just like, this came back with wheat. And then this came back with wheat. And like,
Oh, I understand what you're saying. So it wasn't necessarily that you don't believe it works; it's that it was creating a bad habit as far as
it was.
like
And like I said, I'm fortunate enough that I don't think I'll be one of those people who are very, very sick. There are others out there that do get tragically ill. And whatever you want to do, do it. Whatever makes you feel better. But I'm now starting to get to the point it's like, okay, I'm going to heal myself, which for me, it'll take about, I said 3 to 6 months. I think it's going to take 6 to 9 months because I'm finally getting over the next hump now.
what do you mean by heal yourself?
So I will come back to 100%. Like these little villi guys will grow back. And that's what I need to kind of process food because when they go away, if I understand this correctly, they don't absorb the nutrients of food as well as they should have been. And then it causes all those additional issues. So some people are found with vitamin deficiencies, so like magnesium, B12, vitamin D. Others are malnourished. Well, that would be malnourished.
Mm-hmm.
Others have anemia, so low iron when they're initially found with celiac disease. I was found with nothing else. I just had to take some vitamin D like every good northeasterner should because we live inside in the winter and we don't get the sun. But I'm fortunate I didn't have any of those issues. But that's what these guys kind of pick up, I guess, as you're eating.
So when you eventually heal yourself, when these guys are eventually back, will you
My
then
call
be
sign.
yeah,
I'm
will
here.
will you eventually be able to eat gluten again, or is it a matter of
This is a life sentence.
okay?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm sure down the line, for sanity's sake, I will have something that I know. Like I love the pizza place down the street. I'm not gonna eat a whole slice. I might have just a little bit, just for the sanity purpose. I did check that it will not cause me to relapse, to have any pieces of that. I mean, I went so long with no problems that I even
Right.
knew about. So I'm not trying to get to that point again because I don't want to do this recovery crap again. But I will, I guess my body will be back to functioning as it should, because the longer that you don't heal it, the more at risk you are for additional things. Like I said, the anemia, the malnutrition, their stomach cancer. That's probably like the number one thing.
Oh, it actually causes stomach cancer?
Yeah, untreated. It can cause so many different things. I mean, it's funny when I read no two celiac cases are the same. It's so true, because that's why it's so hard for people or doctors or medical professionals to find it, because it's no standard thing. It's not like you get the cough and then you get this and then you get this. Because some people don't get anything. Like I said, some people never see the rash. And I saw the rash, and I was probably the most fortunate one, because that's should have been like, okay, go.
Right. It gave you a
Else.
physical marker to show that, like, this is something that you need to look into.
Yeah, but nobody ever picked up on it. And I think that's why I went so long hurting my
Right.
body rather than helping my body. So, um, yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have some pretty cool friends that are willing to go eat gluten free, who don't make a big thing about it. And
I mean, I feel like most of the people that we know, you find the restaurant and say, hey, this is where we're going.
yeah,
I don't think anyone's going to put up too much of a fuss as long as the food's good there, whether it's gluten free or not.
you'd
I,
be you'd
I
be
mean, I can speak for myself in that if the food's good, I don't care if it's got
you
gluten.
are going no matter where I tell you you're going.
Yeah, it's like you're coming along for the ride. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and I think that I was hurt physically, and that scared me. But I was hurt much more emotionally and mentally, trying to come up with the acceptance of, like, I have a, I'm gonna call it a disease. I hate using that word.
It's
Also,
what
I
it
will.
is.
It is what it is,
You
right?
know,
Like,
there's no reason to minimize it for other people's sake.
no, but it's the realization, like, I have a problem now. Like, I'm super strong and I run all these marathons and I'm superwoman and cool athlete. And it's like,
By the
oh,
way, running those
boom,
marathons, I don't know how you get any enjoyment out of that. I really don't.
what?
It Running just seems like the most miserable way. Ugh, even the thought of it is just. Ugh.
I guess, yeah, I don't like to run fast. I'm like a good 10-minute miler, if you will. There's just some like solace in there, or I don't know if that's the right word even, but it kind of just like gets me out of my own head, I love pushing myself. Like, I love pushing my body. And I think that's what I have found that I really appreciate. I love getting a good medal, but I think it's
I'm
usually,
all for pushing your body and being in shape and being healthy and getting a medal, provided you're in first, second, or third. Uh, no participation medals, in my opinion.
oh,
um, but like, I don't know, something about running just. Ugh, ugh.
well, I think that I can't, I can tell you why I do it. Because I know someone who can't, who I think would run like Forrest Gump if she could. So I think for me, it's like run while you got your legs, and or work out, whatever you want to do, right?
Okay,
Um,
I can back working out. That's one of the things that I've been missing desperately. I haven't been to the gym since March 12th was the last time I was at the gym, and I'm I mean I worked at a gym for 4 years. I haven't gone in the past decade. I think the longest I've ever gone without a workout is maybe 2 weeks, and that's because I'm on vacation in another country that doesn't have a gym that I can be a
yeah.
member at. Um,
Um, I can tell you I've worked out more since quarantine than ever before. And I used to work out a lot. Um,
okay.
can I do a shameless or a plug for a person on YouTube? Is that cool?
Sure, go for it.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's not like
So
that. Just to preface
I don't know
this,
what the rules are of the
I have like
podcast.
10 listeners, so
The
have
rules
at
are
it.
the rules.
You're
So
right.
okay, because I don't know if the FCC is watching us, but there's this girl on YouTube. Her name is Sydney Cummings, and she puts up a workout every single day at 5 a.m. So every day is new, and she's got over 800 workouts on her channel. and they're freaking hard. And I think they're the best thing I've ever done. I'm actually considering canceling my gym membership because every day it's like, okay, we're going to work on back and tries today, or it's leg day and ab day. Like, and it's not, she's not like, okay, now march it out, march it out. She's like, nope, goblet squat, 35 pounds. Like, she's got this whole setup going, and she's got a great following, and she leaves every workout with like a really nice message. And
Mm.
I'm sentimental like that. So, and I especially need it now more than ever. And today she almost had me in tears. And I was like, why am I crying after my workout? But I'm so moved. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, she just keeps making you want to come back. So I actually had Jeff go and get, he has more weights at his parents' house. I've
Mhm.
officially outgrown the ones I have here. So I needed him to go get 20s and a plate for me. I was like, I need more, I need
Well,
more.
congrats for that.
Yeah.
That's an
Is that
accomplishment all
gains?
on its own.
Is that what you call gains, Frank?
Yeah, I believe
Is it
that's it's
gains?
called gains. Yeah. Hashtag gains.
So that hashtag gains in quarantine. I refuse the quarantine 15. I refuse that crap. I'm not doing it.
So you want to know what's frightening for me is I'm actually losing weight in quarantine, which is bad because I know it's muscle. I'm like losing weight in my shoulders, my arms, and I'm seeing it like the number on the scale is going down, but like my gut's getting bigger. And like I tried on jeans the other day for the first time just to make sure that they still fit. I was like, oh, thank God they still fit. This
Girls
is
aren't the
part.
only ones going through that, everybody.
No,
Guys
I
too.
mean, I feel worse than it's hard to quantify worse, but like I felt great physically. Like I felt like I was on my way to being back where I used to be when I
Mm-hmm.
was like 25, 24, when I was working out at least every day and I was like at my peak and I was on my way to feeling that way again and then, to where we are now.
You sincerely just like, I'm devastated.
What's that?
You look like I'm severely devastated.
Well, it's having that has always been a way of releasing stress. It's a way of taking care of myself and feeling better about like what I'm doing and just feeling physically better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not big on cardio. I tend to do more weight training than anything else. And so what ends up happening is that's pretty difficult to replicate in, a townhouse. I don't have multiple plates and a space to put a bench. So it's tough to replicate what you can get at a gym. I've been, I'll go for walks occasionally and I've gotten other things to alleviate boredom, but like I've been more sedentary in the past 3 months than I've been in the past probably 15 years, you know? Um, play a lot of video games now.
Yeah.
I, I've I've logged actually let me see. In the game that I've been playing,
I don't want to know.
just take a wild guess. Now, granted, this goes back all the way to March or April of last year. So in the past year, take a guess how many hours I've logged in this game.
450.
Wow, that was really close. 438.
Damn.
That was really freaking close. I didn't think I've never logged that many hours in a game ever. However, some positive. Have you ever heard of a game called Beat Saber?
No.
All right, so check this out. Actually, let me see how I can put my background. You're not going to be able to hear the music to it, but check this out. Where's the video? And I don't know where it went. Oh well, either way. Um, it's like a rhythm game that you play with a VR headset, and like you Here, let's do this actually. I'll share my screen. And we'll go to YouTube and I'll show you. Because what I think about it changed my perception on can you see everything that's going on?
I can.
So it changed my perception on like video games because it kind of forces you, like this song in particular is bonkers. Check it out. This is obviously an ad and not what I'm talking about.
This is like
It's even more nuts when you're in it.
To the left.
for you 7 left.
What's that?
Now to the right.
What are you doing during that?
What do you mean? So this person right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor. She's holding 2 controllers and she's got a headset strapped to her. Let me see if I can find one where it shows from what they're seeing, because I think that gives a better idea. Here we go. So I think this is the one. Yeah, you'll be able to. Those swords are the person's hands.
So this is a workout, Frank.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like think about like the way that like the Nintendo Wii would try and
yeah,
the Wii Fit and all that. I think this is like phenomenal for it. And it's incredibly difficult on this level.
okay.
But it's a lot of fun, and it's something that like I feel like there's a lot more appeal for if people can, you know, make the jump to like actually try VR. But I feel like I've been playing a lot more of that game specifically because it's, you know, movement.
Yeah.
And I also do you know what a one wheel is?
No.
Probably not. It's basically like you remember hoverboards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of like that, but it's got one wheel and you kind of ride it like a snowboard or a skateboard.
Oh, I've seen these things. I just didn't know what they were called. Okay.
Yeah. I've already hurt myself a few times on it.
I think
Yeah.
your next like podcast should be about your house and the gadgets and gizmos you have in it, like cribs with Frank.
Oh, I don't
There's-
think anybody wants to hear that. I
I
mean, you're looking at basically like literally right now is what you're seeing is the extent of my gadgets. My computer behind me, the movie screen behind me, and the fact that I can change the color of the lights in my background. But beyond that, I don't think there's anybody that
it sounds more interesting though. I've got this thing, I've got that thing, I play this game.
You'd be surprised how many people have way cooler setups than I do.
Really? I mean
You would. Well, you know what it is, like you have a normal setup for a normal person. I have a normal setup for a huge nerd.
I mean,
No?
I have a lot of golf paraphernalia. I mean, I can be a golf nerd for you.
How
I've
long
got
have
a
you
set,
played? You've played golf how many years now?
17 maybe, about 17 years. I mean, I can make the argument I've always played since I was yay big in the backyard, but I didn't take it seriously until high school.
Yeah.
Well, so let me rephrase. I didn't take it seriously until freshman year of college when I finally made the college golf team going, oh shit, now what?
Now you've got to, what am I going to do now? I've got to actually do this every day.
Yeah. So for the average golfer, like, or the newbie, you play like what, 9 holes or 18 holes and you ride. But our competitions in high school were 9 holes. And I think I played 18 holes in state, which was abysmal, and it poured down in Atlantic City, the golf course down there. But I'll never forget. And I just was recently on an alumni call, talking with some other girls and some current players. They're what's your greatest memory? And again, keeping that 9-hole, that's all I really competed at was 9 holes. I made the Penn State traveling team, or we were going to Penn State my freshman year from Monmouth, and show up, and I was like, all right, was it like 18 holes? They're like, no, practice round is 18 holes. We play 36 and then 18. I'm like, I'm sorry,
Oof.
36 holes in a day? And
I got to be honest, I get winded, not winded, but like when I'm done with 18 holes, I'm like, all right, I'm going to have lunch. I'm going home and I'm taking a nap. I'm done.
sounds like somebody else I know here, but no. And we're carrying our bag with potential rain gear, an umbrella, snacks, golf balls. Like, we're hoofing it. And I can't remember if we eventually went to 36-18, but I think maybe the first one I went to, I'll retract that. It was 18 holes was the practice round, and then 3 days of 18 holes for series competition after that. And we're in Penn State.
Okay,
Like, we're
that's a little bit more reasonable though. Three, like I could handle
6
doing it like
a.m.
days in a
tea
row.
time. Well, they eventually went to 36 holes because I remember when that happened. I was like, why?
Yeah,
I
because like I granted I'm not good at golf at all. You've seen me play. Um, I start off like semi. Actually, no, I start off kind of rocky, and then around the third hole it starts to come together, and then around the 16th hole it starts to fall apart again.
Oh, it sounds like everybody else. Yours just is a different fall apart than mine is a fall apart. It'll eventually, yours will change and get better.
No, well,
But
I don't play enough. I don't play nearly enough, and the reality is like golf is an excuse to drink and smoke cigars with friends. So, you know,
I and all my friends hate playing with me because I'm still in that college competitive mindset of I don't drink and I don't smoke cigars while I'm playing. I'm like trying to
because you totally smoke cigars otherwise.
there was that one time I tried, but I don't think I inhaled. I think I just put my mouth on it. And I was like, this is cool.
Well, you're not supposed to inhale a cigar to begin with, so
And that's why. That's why I don't do things. Not for
yeah,
me.
yeah, it's not for everybody. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
No.
I mean, I no, we've played golf together, and you're not like, I mean, it's not a big deal to be around you when you're in a competitive mind. I mean, you're not affecting me.
No,
You're not affecting anybody. I've played with people that are like, you know, I know that you're not supposed to talk when someone's like standing in the tee box or this or that, like, but like they adhere to the rules to like a tee, and they're like miserable to be around because they ruin everybody else's time if you're not following their rules,
Mhm.
and you're just kind of like, don't piss me off while I'm doing my thing, and you could do whatever you want. Like I'm pretty sure when we were playing last year for the putts and chugs, whatever the annual outing,
All
that is that going to happen this year?
well, it was supposed to happen May 3rd, but COVID. So we'll see. Um, yes, it will happen. We don't know when it'll
Okay.
happen. Let's just leave it at that. Whenever we can get tea times, because right now it's just not gonna. There's too many people for the.
Yeah. Even at the my club, they've got like tea times just straight up stacked one on top of another, and you've got to call like a week in advance to get anything. I'm like, I don't really want to play golf.
Oh, same. That's the other problem we could have went back to is that the tea time situation is bogus.
Yeah, I don't. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not gonna. I don't love golf that much. I just don't love golf that much to be like, oh, I'm gonna book this a week in advance. I'm gonna, I'm really gonna get out there. But like, I look forward to certain events every year. Like, I missed. We weren't able to have every Good Friday. I play with a group of friends, um, and this is the first time in the past 10 years we didn't play because we couldn't.
Yeah.
Um, we're missing that this year. So like I look forward to stuff like that, but like normal, just like, oh, let's go get a round in. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Well, I'm on the opposite side of that because that's like the only thing we can do to get out and do something. Like, yeah, I can go to a park, but like I'm only gonna walk in circles so many times. So paying the membership this year was worth its weight in gold. Plus, it's a private facility.
Mhm.
So I can get a tea time. Like, I don't have to be in the public courses fighting for a tea time where it's probably slammed anyway. So,
Well, that's just it. I actually, I'm not sure I'm gonna rejoin this year in my club because they've put extra restrict. I have the casual membership, which is, um, you get it's $500 and you pay the greens fees every time you go. The first 250 goes towards your cart fees, for the first 10 rounds, and you get a max of I think it's 20 rounds, right?
mhm,
But they restrict when you can go. When in the past years, it's like as long as you're not. I think there was like one day you couldn't book a tea time. Now it's um, they're putting restrictions on the days and the times that you can book. Like you can't book before 10 a.m. Doesn't matter what day it is.
or 6,
Uh,
yeah,
what's that?
or 6 p.m.
Okay,
So
yeah,
it's funny, everybody's like, okay, it's 6 o'clock, and redial, redial, redial.
right. I'm not putting up with that shit. I don't. It's not, especially if I'm gonna join a club. Fuck that. I want to book a tea time when I want to book a tea time. Like,
Yeah.
no, you know what I mean? Like you're paying for the exclusivity, you're paying for the lack of hassle to deal with the public courses. Why are you then going to artificially reintroduce that into the club? And now all the people that are paying good money to be at this club are dealing with the same things that they've been trying to escape by joining.
Mm-hmm.
So it's TBD as to whether or not I'm actually going to rejoin at my club
Yeah,
this year.
it's hopefully temporary, right? Like we're hoping it's temporary. Now we're back in foursome, so that's nice. That's a plus. So it sucks, but it's temporary.
I have a theory, or my prediction is that by the 4th of July, whether we're legally allowed to do what we want or not, people are going to start saying fuck it.
Oh, they're already starting to.
Well, I mean, yeah. Um, but like I think that that's going to be by that time everyone will kind of be business owners will be saying screw it, whether I can open up or not, I'm doing it.
There was a gym in Belmar,
Yeah.
the Outdoorsy one today that opened up. I can tell you, we were like secretly like, go you.
I mean, they were like anticipating. I saw that they were anticipating something like 1,000 people showing up today. Obviously, they've kind of reworked the way that they're formatting the gym and the
Yeah.
capacity and things like that. Like they're trying to be cautious. They're trying to do it the right way. But they're basically doing it like screw you. We can be just as safe as we're being otherwise as all these other businesses, and still not deprive people of their physical well-being. And their physical fitness, which is, it's a huge impact that, you know, it sucks. Not being able to work out normally has more than just um, physical repercussions.
I- right. Well, going back to like, why do I run? It's because not for physical as much as it is just for a mental break.
Yeah, totally.
I do, or working out like every day on my lunch break. I'm doing that, those videos on YouTube, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gross after, but I feel so good, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. Like being able to feel better. I mean, it's great when, you know, you achieve other goals with it, but um, I don't know. I'm looking forward to things being back to normal, and I can't stand the phrase "new normal." Like
Oh yeah,
that's bullshit. It's not. It's all do it saying like, "Oh, this is the new normal." This is just indoctrination of like we're surrendering our rights permanently.
well, I'll ask you this question. Let me interview you for a moment.
Sure, go for it. Happy to answer
So
anything.
we've got an election coming up, and it's speculated that it's going to be a mail-in ballot. What are your thoughts on that?
um,
I mean, you can clearly know what mine are, but or just speculate.
I have some concerns, quite frankly. I have some pretty serious concerns about how easily you can tamper with that. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like, number one, I think it's awfully convenient that on an election year, a worldwide pandemic hits that originated in a country that's not the biggest fan of our president right now.
Mhm.
Um, it just seems a little bit too convenient that the economy is taking a huge hit right before, I think back in November, December, you'd hear all these political experts saying that basically it would take the economy tanking for Trump to even have a shot at not being elected again based on the data that they had at that point in time. It's awfully convenient that that's what's happening, number
Mhm.
one. And number two, I don't want to believe that people would deliberately lose things if they open something up and it's not the person that they want to win. But it wouldn't surprise me either. Uh, I would have some very serious concerns with the validity of how that would turn out. I really do.
And I would say on either side, you should be concerned.
Well,
On either,
absolutely. I mean, I just
whoever you're voting for.
right. Like we live in a blue state. We live in New Jersey, um, and
It just
so
turned blue again. Let's relax. No, I
the
know.
fact of the matter is, currently it's a blue state. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if red ballots get misplaced or not counted or they never arrive. The same way that I think that in a state like Texas, uh, blue votes will end up disappearing.
You'd be
I,
surprised with Texas.
maybe it's just a bad example. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean, but for future thought, I don't know how long they'll sustain being red.
Why do you say that?
You got a big city population there in Austin and in San Antonio and Houston, Dallas, the big cities. Probably forgetting one or two. Um, but a lot of people are migrating to Texas because of low taxes and so they don't pay. I should know this. Forget if they don't pay income tax,
Nope.
right? So a lot of people are coming from California because they also have a small tech hub there in Austin. So people are moving because it's cheaper, but you still get that city feel, which is I love Austin. Um, but they're bringing their values with them, so it's changing the climate of the state.
The one thing that I'm going to say about that is if Texas goes blue, like legitimately goes to be a blue state, the one thing that's going to happen, the only way that I could see that happening is if the Democratic Party suddenly changes their perspective on gun control.
Oh yeah, well that's a whole other.
Whole other topic. I
Whole,
agree, but um, everybody's got a gun. Everybody's got a gun. It's a way of life down there, and that's fine. I'm all about very liberal gun control because I don't necessarily think that, like, I would liken taking a gun out of my hand would be taking um, a car away from someone who drives responsibly. Like it doesn't solve the problem.
right. It's a
Uh,
very hard problem to solve.
absolutely, I don't have a solution to it. Uh, but I do know that in Texas, you're not taking their guns away. You're just not. You're not taking their guns away.
They'll secede first.
What's that?
They'll secede first.
Oh, 100%. Like you'll be dealing with a small nation between one nation under the United States above Mexico.
I'm actually reading a really interesting book right now by Brian Kilmeade. Yes, he's from Fox News, but whatever. He's a good author. But I just ran the Alamo half marathon,
Hmm.
um, and it's celebrating. Um, God, I'm gonna get this wrong, but like the battle at the Alamo, and his book is about the battle at the Alamo, and it's like incredible, like what those caretakers or whatever you want to call them of the Alamo were doing and thinking and trying to win their independence from Mexico at the time. It's fascinating, quite honestly. So if anybody's interested in the history of San Antonio and the Alamo, I highly recommend, because I'm a nerd for that, because the room we were sitting in right now has a bunch of pictures dedicated to the Riverwalk in it. So
The Riverwalk's really nice down there too. I've been there once, probably about 10 years ago at this point, but it was really cool. I
yeah,
enjoyed it.
I was just
Um,
there. It was
but
fun.
yeah, I don't think that Texas is going to go blue anytime soon.
I
You know,
don't know. I
just
have no listen. I have no idea what is going on. I'm just trying to like keep my head under the radar and just like
yeah,
get.
like and all right, we'll get political for a second. Like a general political perspective, I tend to lean similar to you, fiscally and economically. I lean hard right.
Mm-hmm,
Socially,
mm-hmm,
I lean not hard left, but I definitely lean left. Like I'm not all about um like these like 100 genders and all of that. Like I don't care what you do. Like if it makes you happy, great, but don't force it on me.
I don't have enough
Um,
time to care because I can barely get through my own day. So whatever you want to do, do it.
right. As long as you're not forcing it on me, as long as you're not gonna like if you're dressed like a dude and you've got a dude's haircut and you're built like a guy and all signs point to you being a guy or the opposite, and I refer to you as sir or ma'am or whatever, like if you want to correct me and be like, oh, it's this or that or whatever, fine. But that's on you to inform me of that, number one. And number two, it's bullshit if you're offended. Like it's I don't know, that's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but like I think that from that perspective, um we've gotten really good at being offended by a lot of things that really don't matter. um but where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Where what were we talking about with with
That's
politics?
too political. I was like, I have no comment on all of this for me.
Yeah, no, I know. I just dug myself a hole there. Anyway, politically, I just like I said, I tend to see both sides, and I get really, really frustrated when I can't have a civil conversation with someone who disagrees with me. Like if I'm, and I understand I'm making a pretty gross generalization in what I'm about to say, but generally speaking, um, I feel like people who vote Republican, who have generally right leaning views, um, are more of a live and let live. Like, if it doesn't bother me, do what you got to do. I don't really care.
Hmm.
And I feel like people who tend to lean left are, no, you need to conform to what I say is right.
Hmm.
And that's where I feel like we have not only a disconnect, but a breakdown of like the way that life should be. Like, again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Everybody's entitled to what they want to feel
Hmm.
and think and whatever. And as long as it doesn't affect me, I don't care. As long as
Yeah,
you're not harming yourself, it doesn't affect me or the people that I care about. I couldn't care less.
yeah, and I
But
think
like, sorry.
no, I was saying, I think that's a great way to think about it. I mean, that's how I think about it. Like you said, like I don't want to pay any more taxes, but
Well, yeah, like
also,
it's tough to. I'll use this as an example. I used to think someone like Bernie Sanders was just like this raving lunatic that just wanted to have his hand in my pocket all day, every day. I don't necessarily think that anymore. I don't agree with him. I
hmm.
don't think he's a raving lunatic anymore. Um, but he's got some really bad ideas. and I think his heart's in the right place. I think that he legitimately wants to help people. I think that the vast majority of people on that side, in their heart, want to help people, but have a very abrasive way of going about it. And I wish that there was more of a way to have a conversation without everybody being offended. Um, because I feel like that's what ends up happening is that you say like you say you voted for Trump, and all of a sudden, if there's somebody in the room that disagrees with you, it's like you're villainized. Like we're the idiots drinking bleach to kill the coronavirus. Right, exactly.
Said in jest. Like,
What's that?
that was most likely said in jest. I heard about that comment. I didn't hear it. I'm like, oh god.
Right, like
I'm surprised.
you know what? Anybody that I'm gonna go on record and saying that anybody that thinks that that's the way that you should get rid of the coronavirus, go ahead and drink it. We don't need idiots like that. Doesn't matter what side you're on. Like I know that's harsh, but
A little harsh, but
it's well.
I think that we've just, for me now, that's kind of where I've stepped away from politics and being political and wanting to help, because that's initially why I got into it, was to help um, policies and help people. But then you see that like the actual the dirty politics side of it, and it's like I'm not
It's
interested in this anymore. I have
it,
my values. I have my I have my values and I have my principles, and that's that. Like, just because we don't agree doesn't mean I'm a bad person and you're a bad person. It's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed
and it
to.
keeps things interesting, right? Like being able to have a conversation. If someone disagrees with me,
Yeah.
um, I actually go into that conversation hoping that they can change my mind. Like I feel like that's the way that you learn. That's the way that you expand the way that you think, is that you approach it from, I might not be right.
Yeah, I will tell you, I've had my mind changed more in the last 10 years about things I was always steadfast on, than anything else. And I'm more grateful for that, because it shows you what kind of a silo you were thinking in. It's like, wait. No, there's a bigger population, there's a bigger thought process out there. And it helps you grow. And then you're like, that wasn't right. And then you can help the next person change their mind.
Yeah.
So that's what I think it should be. And I think if you have those fundamentals, whatever they are, then you should stand by them. But um,
Be a good person.
yeah, and don't ever villainize the other person, or
Yeah.
uh, call them names, or don't want to be their friend anymore because they don't agree with you. Maybe there's one reason as to why they don't agree with you, but I'll tell you, there's been more times that I've been categorized so far to the right, and I'm like, well, you didn't ask me.
Yeah.
So you would ask me, you'd actually be shocked. I've always been a big proponent of stem cell research, which is not typically a conservative right wing thing. And I hate using the word right wing because I'd make that like so far.
Well,
But
I mean, I think from here on out, what we could do is just operate under the assumption that when you make right wing, left wing, whatever, that it's just a gross generalization for the simplicity of not getting caught up in semantics of a conversation. It's
right,
not a matter of you're, hardcore this or that. It's just a gross generalization so
right,
that we can have a normal conversation.
fair enough. But I've always been a big proponent of stem cell research, because it would help people I know recover from different diseases. And it's a left thing. It's not a right thing. So shocker. If you had asked, you might have known.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of things that I think that if people just asked about it, they'd be surprised on both sides.
yeah, and I think it's a shame that, people make these general comments on either side, and nobody can speak their mind freely anymore in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Back and that's a shame, because that was one of my favorite things in college, was being able to have those conversations back and forth, and nobody had hurt feelings at the end. It was like, okay, let bygones be bygones. I mean, that's what's got us as far as a country, is differencing of opinions. Like, thank God we decided to not be a part of the UK anymore, or England, I should say, not the UK. But I mean, we had a different opinion and it got us somewhere. So
Yeah, I
there,
mean, and I think it's unfortunate now that on college campuses, it's kind of like they're pushing one agenda and you're not allowed to think differently than it. Otherwise, you're labeled one thing or another.
yeah, and it's so interesting, different generational thoughts on things too, right? Like, I think, what are we, are we like millennials?
Yeah, we're technically millennials. Currently, I think as of right now, as of 2020, I think if you are 38, if you're 25 to 38, you are a millennial.
All right, so we're millennials. We get a bad rap all the damn time, and
When
it's
it's really the generation behind us.
it's not our fault. But I think that, people I know in our groups, in our age range, there's a lot of people out there similar to us who are like, hey, I just want to have a conversation. Like, that's kind of how we just grew up. It's like
Yeah.
we'll differ with opinions. Like, hey, you like the Mets and I like the Phillies. Like, let's talk about that. It's the same thing.
You like the Mets or you like the Phillies, and I don't follow any sports, so I could give a fuck.
I mean, we can talk about the Eagles now, but we can talk about baseball coming back. But yeah, I mean, just I guess if anybody's listening to this, I would just say, just ask the person the questions you want to ask without getting offensive or defensive, aggressive. Just freaking have a conversation.
Now that I've kept you for almost 2 hours, and first of all, I want to say thank you for
This was
helping me out. And,
fun.
yeah, it absolutely has been fun. I do have one final question.
Yeah.
Did Epstein kill himself?